So what I want to do in our time together today is just introduce you to a new way to kind of see yourself and review your life, and maybe those stories that you tell yourself of like, oh, it was a huge mistake, or I should have known better, or how could I have been so stupid? Maybe we leave today reframing those a little bit and starting to befriend yourself, the amazing person that you are. And you know, when we see social media memes of love yourself, and we think, what does that mean? I don't even know where to start on that. I think today you might see those, after today you might see those and just pause and see it a little bit differently. So I like to teach how to do these things. We know we should do these things, or this is a great idea in theory, but how do we actually do it? So that's what we're gonna go through, this idea of seeing yourself from afar today, and this is how we begin to love ourselves and appreciate ourselves. So Brooke, will you do that? Yep. Okay, so let's pretend we are on a European vacation, and it's gorgeous, and we're walking down this gorgeous village on this cobblestone street, and this woman in front of us falls suddenly. In a split second, you're concerned about her. You go to her aid, you pick up her stuff, you realize her ankle's badly broken, and you say something like, let me call for help, I'm gonna stay with you, you're okay, I'm here, right? In a split second, we know you're hardwired to have compassion for somebody else. Now, what happens when it's you that falls? What do you say to yourself then? What goes through your head when you trip and fall, and your coffee spills, and your purse empties everywhere, and you've created a scene? What do you say? Clumsy, embarrassing.
Swear.
What?
I swear.
And you swear? Some cuss words?
Yeah.
Right. Is there much compassion there? No, it's how could you be so stupid? You should have left earlier. I can't believe you're trying to carry all this stuff. You shouldn't have worn those shoes. Right? You're such a klutz. This is so embarrassing. Oh my gosh, you're taking this lovely person's time that's helping you. I'm fine. No, go on with your day. I'm fine. And like 15 items down the list is, oh, my ankle really hurts, right? Yeah, so this is just to context, yeah, what we're talking about today. Give it some grounding in your brains of what we're talking about today when we're talking about self-compassion. We turn on ourselves so quickly. And what we want to do is start to treat ourselves like we treat everybody else. And then we'll notice when you're compassionate with yourself, you're even more compassionate than you've ever been to other people, right? You're seeing yourself as worthy. And then all of a sudden the whole world becomes worthy of your love. So when this kind of thing happens, Brooke, we go to the next slide. We're gonna learn a very simple, this is not anything you have to add into your day or another thing on your to-do list, but when you're hurting, when you burn the cookies, when you break the glass, when you snap at the children, when you haven't been loving to your husband, in those moments where you start to shame yourself or criticize yourself, or start that dialogue of what's wrong with you, something's wrong with you, you should be able to figure this out, that kind of stuff. I want you to stop, notice you're doing it, just take a compassionate pause, and it sounds something like, we go to the next slide. It sounds something like this. Ginger, this is hard. I'm with you. What do you need right now? A 2-second pause changes everything. And this is neurologically, neuroscientists have data behind this. Hand on your heart has proven data that we get a dose of oxytocin, which is the love hormone in our brain. So just like Brooke put her hands on me, if you don't have anybody lovingly touching you right now, you do that. You put your hand on your heart, you take a deep breath, you say your own name. The University of Michigan has studied this deeply on the power of hearing your own name and the release of oxytocin. We feel loved, even if it's us saying it. The data shows you get that dose of oxytocin. So hand on heart, say your name, and then bring yourself some comfort. These are the 3 pillars of self-compassion. There's over 20 years of research at the University of Texas in Austin, Harvard, UC Berkeley, and Stanford. All 4 of those universities have centers dedicated to this research. And when I found this research, I was in seminary and I was seeing the 2016 campaign and election. You remember that was a doozy. And yes, that's a word for it. And I was in seminary during that time. So I'm studying the compassion of Jesus and I'm watching the news. And these people are calling themselves Christians. In fact, they're getting a lot of money from Christians. And I'm like, this is as far from Jesus as you could possibly get. And so that was part of my leaving organized religion. But it was also part of me really trying to figure out, how do we do better with this? And then I went down a rabbit hole of ancient teachings on compassion. And Islam has beautiful teachings on compassion. Judaism has beautiful teachings. Buddhism is like the beautiful, beautiful language of compassion. And I thought, and yet, here we are missing the point completely. In fact, it feels like our country was getting more hateful by the minute. And so when I found the self-compassion research in all of that, I thought, why isn't anybody talking about this? We have clinical data at Harvard and UT Austin and UC Berkeley and Stanford, and nobody's given this airtime. Instead, we're giving that airtime. And so that's just, I felt a nudge to go that direction. And that's why I will share with you the research behind this, because the data helped me believe it. This isn't fluffy, like, we should all practice gratitude, right? That's not, gratitude has a lot of neuroscience behind it too. But everything I share with you today is not fluff, it's proven. So, will you go back one more? Sorry.
I'm crushing it.
I know you are. So, on your piece of paper, or in your journal, self-compassion, yes.
You're crushing it.
Exactly. I want you to write that down. Okay, I want everybody to write down your version of a compassionate pause. So you made a mistake. What are you going to say to yourself? So you're going to write Bryn, and then what feels true to you, what feels really comforting to you, and then the question, what do you need right now? And you don't have to answer that because you're going to ask yourself that in the moment. But I'd like for you to capture this idea as a personal practice with your name in it. It might be something like, Meg, you're in a tough spot. What do you need? I'm here with you. What do you need right now? And the I'm here with you while you're doing yours is a very important piece of the research. So in a suicidal brain, they have found that brain feels completely alone on the planet. In that moment, nobody else is suffering from what they're suffering from. When we know 7 million people are also having that same moment across the globe. So what the research has found is, if on a good day, we can say, I'm with you, you're not alone, then our brain will default to that when we're having a bad day. Then our brain helps us by saying, you're not alone. Other people feel this too. So when I work with kids, I will hear, I'm the only gay one in my school. I know for a fact you are not. I'm the only one whose parents are getting a divorce. I know for a fact you're not, right? But their precious brain, I'm the only one without a best friend. I'm the only one with nowhere to sit at lunch. And when I hear those phrases, it's just lived experience to support this data, that their precious little brains truly believe they are not alone, right? So then I'll pull out some statistics on how many gay kids are in your school. And then they're like, really? Well, I didn't know that, right? And we start to help our brain get out of that narrow vision. So self-pity will always tell you you're alone. You're the only one. Nobody else had to have this surgery and recover for 6 weeks, right? That's self-pity. Self-compassion will say, this is hard. You just had major surgery. It's going to take us a little bit. What can we do while we're recovering? That's the difference, okay? That's self-compassion. All right, next slide, my awesome assistant. Okay, so every single human being on this planet wants to be seen and heard and understood. These are the prompts on your page: forgiven, and protected, and loved. We're going to take each one of these, but this is what every human being you encounter today is longing for. And these things make us feel like we belong to someone, or here on earth, or to this church, to this school, to this group of friends. I belong. And we know it's a primal instinct in our brain to need to belong, because our caveman brain, which we still have, if we were kicked out of the tribe, we cannot survive out in the desert by ourselves. So I've got to please this tribe, because it's life or death if I get kicked out. That's still that primal. That's why teenagers overreact when a friend gets mad at them. Right? This is primal. They don't have the prefrontal cortex that helps with logic and decision making until they're 24, fully developed. So that impulsivity and that, like, this is life and death, you don't understand. That's that primal part of their brain that's more developed than their front cortex. And when we get unhealthy, when we're tired, hungry, sad, feeling bad emotions, we go into that primal brain, right? We go into the default state of, I can't survive out there on my own. And that's why we're irrational sometimes, right? So when you get irrational, also give yourself compassion of like, oh, that's just my primitive brain, right? I just feel like I'm getting kicked out in the desert to die alone. I'm not really. I'm okay. I'm okay. So these things contribute to our sense of belonging to somebody, and that's why that is such a primal instinct. It's survival. And research shows by age 6, our little brain is saying, I want to keep these people happy. I want to not make mistakes. I want to do whatever makes they like it when I make a soccer goal. Oh, I'm going to try to make lots of soccer goals. Right? And that is the survival instinct.
Are we people pleasers by age 6,
Yep.
Ginger? Oh, no.
So think of how many decades, Michelle, we've been pleasing people.
That's big news.
So here's the study that really compelled me on this piece of research. They set up a topsy-turvy play table with a topsy-turvy cup of milk and brought in kids all ages and observed the reaction to the spilled milk. You were set up to spill milk.
Oh, no.
I know. So 2, 3, 4-year-olds, especially 2-year-olds, they're the most like, spilled milk. You clean it up. No judgment, right? This is this is why the tears are so hard for mama. But by age 6, the report is, oh, I spilled milk. I'm sorry. I clean it up. Mommy gets upset when I spill milk. I be careful. I know. And I read this research when my kids were like 10 and 12, and I was like, oh, I messed it up. I missed it. So that's why I try to tell it, so we can do it with our grandchildren. We can change it, ladies. But what we do know is all of this stuff that I'm teaching can be learned, and we can rewire that neural pathway that said I have to make everyone happy. We can. Neuroplasticity is an area of neuroscience that says you can rewire your brain, which is like, oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you for discovering we could rewire our brains. Nothing's permanent. But that people pleasing started little Michelle, age 6. Yeah. So this goes into our next slide, which is watching your own movie. So here's how we begin to appreciate and love ourselves, despite the life stories we've all had and the mess ups and the hard things we're bumping up against now. To zoom out and be able to see yourself from afar is a very helpful practice. And this is where I've landed on one of the most powerful practices in self-compassion. So I've been working with people one-on-one for about 6 years now. and half of my practice is now teenagers. And when I watch people's faces in my practice, this is the one where we really start, when we say let's zoom out and watch, this is where I really see people start to transform. So I want you each to see yourself as if we're watching a movie. So the movie Coda just won, Best Picture, so good, right? So there's this character Ruby, and she's the only one that's hearing in her family of deaf parents and brother. And we are rooting for Ruby, but Ruby has to make some tough decisions. And yet we can understand what Ruby desires and why she's doing what she's doing. We can also understand the parents. It's because we're watching that movie, it's not our movie, right? And so this is, when we're in our own movie, we're Ruby feeling guilty and responsible and trapped. And it's hard to see the bigger picture. But when we can zoom out and we are like, yes, Ruby, go, live your life, do your thing, right? So I want you to start to do that for yourself. See yourself as this amazing character that we fall in love with every movie we watch, every Netflix series we watch, right? We're rooting for that girl. So we could do that for ourselves too. And the way you start this is to see yourself as this beautiful child. So maybe land on that 6-year-old that we just realized started people pleasing, or, just a scene from your childhood. Before 10, you were carefree, you were playing outside, right? I had crazy afro curly hair and a lot of barn kittens scratching and hissing, and I was determined to tame them, right? Yeah, see yourself like that awesome little girl. She's amazing. She's just carefree, doing her thing, not burdened by all the stuff that's coming yet, right? Just see her, marvel at her, fall in love with her. She's amazing. Actually, on that one, right by that prompt, I see you, and put your name. I see you, little Stephanie. I see you, creative little Deanne. Maybe a trait that you see. You can return to this at home, maybe lay in bed. Sometimes I just lay in bed and close my eyes when I need to reconnect to her. You can ask her for advice. These are beautiful moments. That little curly-haired, crazy cat tamer gives me a lot of good advice today. Okay, the next one. This one, as we get a little bit older, we start to figure out that, oh, they didn't like what I said. So maybe I just won't say anything. Or, Dad, I really don't want to go to 4 horse shows this weekend. I want to be with my friends. That didn't get received well. You've worked hard for this. You're good at this. Let's go. Right? So sometimes we have to go back and hear that little voice that didn't get heard. So maybe it was a teacher that thought she was difficult. I can't figure this kid out. You're talking all the time and you're disruptive. Right? Hear what she was saying. Why was she talking all the time? What was she saying? Hear her when she wasn't being heard by adults. We can hear her now. She has a voice. She has an amazing voice. She's going to learn to use it. She might be in her 60s before it really clicks. She'll learn. So write a statement of I hear and see what comes. I hear you say, or I hear your desire. I hear your loving heart. I hear that you weren't talking back, you were defending yourself. we're going to begin to move into our high school years, our adolescent years, where we start making mistakes. Just do. We're a young girl. We're hormonal, and we're adventurous, and we're impulsive, and we're gonna make mistakes, right? Let's watch her in the movie and see why she did what she did. She drank too much because she had social anxiety, right? We see that now. She let that boy go a little too far because she didn't want to make it uncomfortable or awkward, right? But can we understand why they did what they did now? She's just 16. She doesn't know then what she knows now. She's just living life and exploring and pushing the envelope. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a teenager. Can you understand why she made the decisions she made? This one's really important to go back on any story you have filed away as a mistake. I should have known better. Ugh. You hear that phrase, let's pull that file out and retell this story. Let's understand why she made that decision. She shouldn't have known better. She's learning. This is how we learn. So make a statement there to yourself of, I understand now why you did that. I can see that with compassion and grace and permission to be a kid. I can see that you were just trying something out, or you were nervous, or you were unsure of yourself. And maybe that's, the person you chose to marry at the time. Maybe it's, I understand why she did it. She was young. Thought this was gonna be good. Thought she could help this person. Really give her compassion of making those decisions. And that leads us into the next one, which is the one we have the most trouble with. And that's truly forgiving. But this exercise really helps us start to do it. And forgiving is about softening most of all. Forgiving is about softening your heart just a notch. Could I just soften one notch in the way I see that story or that mistake she made? And the key with this one, or one more slide, is the word maybe. Maybe, just maybe, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Maybe there were other factors at play and other people influenced my decision. Maybe I've been telling this story really harshly in my brain. Maybe I could tell it a new way or a little softer. Maybe I'm not a bad person. Maybe I wasn't evil in that moment. Maybe I was just lost. Maybe I just didn't know something. Maybe I needed to learn that hard lesson. The word maybe is super powerful, and it shifts our mindset into what Carol Dweck has done a lot of research on this. It's called a growth mindset, which is there's potential, there's possibilities. A fixed mindset is like, you messed up, you're a bad person, you get a life sentence for that mistake, right? We're gonna punish you for that the rest of your life. And at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep, I'm gonna remind you of it, right? That's a fixed mindset, and we get really abusive in a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is I'm learning, I'm growing, I can find a different way, I can figure out how to do this. Another powerful word is yet with this. I can't figure this out yet. I don't know whether to, trying to think of things women tell me. I don't know whether to stay in my marriage yet. I don't know if I'm gonna leave yet. I don't know if I want to change schools for my child yet. I don't know how to raise a teenager yet, right? That word yet gives possibility to I'm figuring it out, just like the word maybe. Those are the two the easiest ways to remember to shift into a growth mindset that I have found are the word maybe at the front end or the word yet at the back end. And you can do this with your children of all ages. I can't do math yet. Right? I can't make varsity yet. Right? I can't make this teacher like me yet. We're getting there. And just introduce possibility into their brains when you see a very final sentence come out of their mouths. This is the way we begin to soften to ourselves. We start to give ourselves grace and let ourselves off the hook a bit. And when we're letting ourselves off the hook a bit, we start to let everybody else off the hook a bit too. And that's what our world needs right now, right? America needs this right now. So forgiveness is hard, and we can't cover that in 10 minutes, but what we can do is just remember the word soften. And maybe it's not as bad as I think it is. Just maybe. Maybe there's a different way to see this. That will get you on a path towards developing forgiveness for yourself and for other people. Okay, the next one. This is one that is really important with trusting yourself going forward. And this leads us into protecting yourself. But part of protecting yourself is knowing you're worth saving, right? So protecting yourself is really boundaries. Like, protect yourself from this thing you don't want to do. Protect yourself from this person who's really critical of you. You're worth saving. Or that friend that after you're with, you feel worse about yourself, right? Let's save her from that. We see that dinner with girlfriends scene playing out, and that one woman just knocks her down every time, right? We want to protect her from that. We want to scream, don't go to that dinner anymore, right? Put on your pajamas and watch Netflix, right? We're cheering for her. So this is the way you start doing this for yourself. But what I found is the step before that is trusting. Trusting that you have inner wisdom and you know you don't need to be subjected to that. You don't want to go. That's why you get that dread. I don't want to go to this thing. Then let's trust that that's correct and not make you go. So trust that you have this inner wisdom, and then the connection to God is also part of trusting yourself, or connection to the universe, or connection to a spirit greater than yourself, or a creator, whatever feels right to you. If there is a force of love, right, bigger than us. There's the light, Star Wars said it well, with the light, there's go towards the light, don't go towards the darkness. Whatever that is for you, that goodness, know that you are directly connected to that, and that is your inner wisdom, and that is your guide. And what I found is we can't really do boundaries if we're not good at trusting ourselves, right? Because we don't really, well, you should go, you should be nice, you might not have any friends if you don't go to that dinner, right? We're not trusting my inner wisdom says, I feel horrible when I go, I don't want to go. And teens helped me really fine-tune some of this work. They have great inner radar, but then they kind of learn to override it, right? So when they're in middle school, I don't like that person. And we're like, oh, you need to be nice to everybody and like everybody, right? And then that's the person that hurts them. And then as mothers, we were like, oh my gosh, why did I make you play with them and come to the slumber party, and then she ruined the slumber party, and right? This is important that we as women stop kind of overriding it with that good girl syndrome, right? I'm gonna teach a class online on this in a couple months. But letting go of that good girl expectation, I find that we really need to set that aside, because what it's doing is overriding our intuition. We are second guessing ourselves all the time. You all are loving people. You wouldn't have shown up here today. So you don't need to worry about being mean. I'm confident of that. So just begin to trust that inner wisdom that you already have, and see it in your children too. And then the next one is when you get, oh yeah, so what do you need permission to do? This is part of protecting yourself. So trusting, permission, boundaries is kind of the lane we're in right now. So write yourself a permission slip off to the side of your paper that sounds something like, remember, use your first name. There's data on that. Always use your first name when you're talking to yourself. So examples up here just to get you started are, Ginger, I give you permission to care for yourself as much as you care for other people. I give you permission to rest. I give you permission to say no. We all have a list of things we need to give ourselves permission for. So write down what comes to mind for you. And for some reason, the research on this is that our brain feels like this is really coming from an authority. It's really interesting that you're giving yourself permission, but it really feels like permission, like a permission slip. So this is an important exercise to do every once in a while. If you feel stuck and you don't know what to do, or you have a decision to make and it's not clear, sometimes a permission slip can really help you with clarity. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. I want to do it, and it's a great opportunity, but I don't know. If you say something like, Ginger, I give you permission to not do it, if you feel this huge sense of relief, there's your answer. Or, Ginger, I give you permission. I think you need to stretch yourself a little bit, right? There's also self-discipline times where, like, put yourself out there a little bit. Go for this thing. I give you permission to be scared and do it anyway. Okay, the next one is this idea of protecting, and we could do a whole day on boundaries. But I think the easiest way to enter into boundaries with your setting boundaries for yourself are things like, what's important to her? Her time, her family, her creativity, her health. Okay, let's protect those 4 things. Whatever comes to the top of your list of your values, what's most important to you? So if spending time with my aging parents, if that's really important to you, then that needs to be protected, right? We need to figure out how many hours a week it feels right to spend with your aging parents, and we're gonna protect that time. We're setting you up for success, not regret and shame and beating yourself up. I'm gonna do one more and then we're gonna share or talk and have questions. Okay, when you feel dread, heavy, this is gonna be hard, I don't wanna do this, see if you can flip it into, could this be fun and easy? Like, I don't wanna make dinner and clean up the kitchen tonight. Could it be fun and easy? Well, yes, it's not that horrible. I could put on music, I could make something I really enjoy eating, I could ask for help, right? This is a really important tool for women because we take on the heavy, hard stuff in life. We just do. We're responsible for aging parents. We're responsible for children's calendars. We're responsible for medical forms. We're responsible for what are we gonna eat. We're responsible for the household. This is the role in society, and not all of us. Some of us do better with pushing back and husbands that really see it and do it and help than others. So there's a spectrum here. But in society, this kind of stuff falls on shoulders of women. And we have to kind of reframe it a lot or push against that paradigm. We're in the generation that, our mothers, our grandmothers were probably caretakers. Our mothers might have been nurses, teachers, starting to work, but limited opportunities, right? Maybe another generation was starting to break the ceiling, and then we came along and we had options, most of us, of my generation, we had, I could go to business school and I could play the man's game a little bit more. And what I'm seeing is then these younger generations of women, it's all about, hell no, I'm not doing that. Right? No, why would I do that? And I can wear whatever I want. It's their problem, whatever they're thinking, right? We're changing this paradigm, but we're in the middle in this room, kind of, right? And so it's it's going to be hard for a little bit, but this is really important to begin to do this work of, I see what's important to you, and it's not the dishwasher. So how do I make time for the stuff that's important to you? Okay, that's how you protect yourself, and that's how you get to boundaries. And the fun and easy is, I see how much you hate doing this. Could it be fun and easy? No, there's no way to make this fun and easy. Okay, then that's a hell no. We're not doing it. If we could make it fun and easy, so if it's not fun and easy, we need to hire it, say no, ask for help, outsource. If it can be fun and easy, then let's attitudinally approach it as, I don't have to make this so hard. It's a big shift. It's a big shift. Okay, and then the last one is, why do we do all this stuff? Because when you start to see yourself as you saw yourself today, and worthy, and admire her and see her with awe, you truly see everybody else that way too. And I had to learn this the hard way. I realized I was full of self-hatred. And I was hustling and proving myself, and I needed to be smart, and I needed to be on it. Bryn knew me in college. I needed to be president of the sorority to prove to myself that I was worthy. I had all this crap. And I didn't realize that was all coming from a place of unworthiness. So I have to prove to the world I know something, and I could be successful. But what that did in the end in my business career is make me super sick. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I went through lots of infertility. I just hit the bottom and had a lot of God questions, and that's what led me to seminary. But in that, I realized, oh, this is really you being disgusted with yourself all the time. And that's a powerful thing to just face. And I mean, I would venture to guess the women in this room are super critical of themselves. So we need to stop, because you're amazing, and you have a beautiful soul that was with God and will return to God. And that's the truth of who you are. That's your identity. And what I found in this research and my journey with God is that if I can see my own beautiful soul and stop the hustle and stop the criticism and love myself, then I see every human being as that beautiful soul, that loving heart. They are pure love. And let's stop being critical. She's amazing. And she's here to love and contribute love. And she's talented and gifted. She's doing a really good job. And then we'll start to remind each other of that too. We'll put voice to that for each other. Yeah. What questions do you have?
It's always good to hear.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So I love the compassionate pause, and I wrote down a question when I was first thinking about that. And what if you don't know what you need?
Yeah. Yes. I'm so glad you asked this question. Oftentimes, what you really need is a glass of water.
You're gonna say wine. I do know what I need.
Maybe a glass of wine. I like this group. Okay, maybe a glass of wine. Usually it's like, I need water. I need to go for a little walk down the hallway. I need to just go in the bathroom and shut the door. I need a break. I need a hug. I need some help. So we intellectualize what we need, and we start going to like, I need a new house and a new. That's not it. It's like, what do I need in this moment, right? So when we knew what the woman who turned her ankle needed, she needed somebody to sit with her and pick up her stuff and tend to her immediate needs. So what do I need? Think immediate needs in this moment. What do I need? So I broke a glass in our kitchen the other day, and glass went everywhere. And I was like, oh, you're rushing, and I started the criticism. And I was like, what do you need? You need to just take a deep breath and remember it's just a glass and clean it up. Right? And all that shame story stopped immediately. I'm just not going to do that. But before finding and practicing some of this stuff, I would have been like, you're always rushing. If you would just slow down, and you're a horrible mother, and the dogs are going to cut their paws, and how could you have done this? Ridiculous, right? But that's what we get, an autopilot of that kind of criticism. So when you snap at kids or your husband, which you're human, you're going to do it a lot because we're tired and we're in a pandemic and we're at war and we're edgy. After you snap, instead of like, I'm such a bad wife, he's going to leave me for somebody else. Okay, right? No, I snapped. I'm tired. I need food. I need to sit down. Right? Those are the moments of just caring for yourself. You see this for your children. You see what they need. Oh, you need a snack. So do you. You need a nap. So do you. You need a hug. So do you. Right? Yeah, good question. What is this idea of being a little kinder to yourself? Does it feel hard? Does it feel like, oh, I could do this if it's on my radar? Yeah. Yeah.
I think it takes practice.
It does take practice.
Because it doesn't come naturally.
Exactly.
So you really have to stop.
That's right.
About it.
That's right. It does take practice. I can attest to that. I was hoping like silver bullet I'd be fixed. And here's what I found. We never get it fixed. We correct a little faster, right? So I dropped the glass. I still had the default of criticism, but I catch it. That's what changes. So we'll manage it the rest of our lives. Because since age 6, we've been like, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. So it's a deep neural pathway in our brain, right? And so it's going to be there. We can rewire a bit. We can practice, so this is our muscle memory, our default a little bit more, but it certainly takes work.
So what do you do with that 6-year-old who might
Yeah.
have just turned 7 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Who says,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, mommy, I broke this, and I'm seeing almost every time, oh, I messed up,
Yeah.
you are disappointed in me, I'm really sorry. How can I
Yeah.
train her this way and
Yeah.
not the way we were trained?
Yeah, good, such a good question. So what I wish I would have known is things like, it's just milk.
Yeah.
Let's clean it up.
Yeah.
And some personal responsibility. Like, yeah, help me clean it up. It's just milk. Or what could you say to yourself in this moment? And try to teach them the self-talk piece, because that's the biggest piece, is what you're saying to yourself in your brain. So, like, no big deal. That's a practice that I started teaching my teens, that I could watch them start to unhook from that criticism a little bit. No big deal. Everything's no big deal. And what's hard, when I speak to like toddler moms, they're like, it is a big deal. I'm losing my mind. Like, I need them to not spill things. So part of it is, yes, it's a big deal. That's not to diminish the mess. But it's also, they're watching your reaction. So if I make this a huge deal, then they're getting the message it's a big deal. So if we both practice no big deal, right? My glass, no big deal. In my brain, I wanted to make that a huge deal of like, you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we can, and the mistake is not an indication of them, right? We made a mistake. We will make mistakes in life. Fact. Actually, normalizing mistakes, I would say, is one of the things I really would love girls to learn. Because the perfectionism of, I cannot make a mistake. I cannot get a B. I cannot be on junior varsity. I cannot, it's so in their brain that I can't make a mistake. And so I would love for the world to make mistakes. Yeah, we made a mistake. Let's move on. What did we learn from it? And stop the shame that goes with it. Yeah.
So my gut, I was just gonna add, my gut would say to that too, that's where this last piece comes in.
Yes.
like with our
Mhm.
kids, is
Yeah.
because, like, if we do one thing with them and another for us, it's a double standard.
Mhm.
You know, so if I say, that's okay when she breaks a glass,
Yep.
but not when I break a glass, like, at the end of the day, she's gonna model what I do,
Yep.
right? Because the double standard is evident even to a 6-year-old.
100%.
And so I think like that's where, like, probably
Yep.
the best way we model something different for our kids is
Exactly.
by changing like our own behaviors. So
Yeah.
that the self-talk is something that they pick up. Oh, when mommy broke the glass, she said, Kristen, that's okay, you were in a rush and I need to take a breath and clean it up. And
So
like
good.
then.
Say it out loud.
Right.
Perfect.
Say
Say
it
it
out
out
loud.
loud.
Say it out loud. Like,
Yeah.
because
Which is
so often,
not
like, I
what-
do with my
how
own
we're
stuff
wired
by
to.
separating.
Yep.
Yeah.
But like if I can model it out
Yep.
loud,
Oh, I
then,
love that.
you know, then they can like see that.
Perfect application. Good. Yeah. Perfect. Yes.
So I have a 21 and a 26-year-old, and I'm, of course, recreating history in my mind right now.
No, let that go.
So I'm thinking, in this model,
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yes, it's just coffee.
so
Perfect.
is there
Perfect.
anything unforgivable?
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking
No.
at 6,
Unforgivable.
there is nothing in their life that is a huge mistake.
That's right.
At some point, there will be big
That's right.
mistakes. At what point do you as a parent say, this was a mistake?
Yes.
Or this
Yes.
This is bad.
And you do.
Yeah.
So there's this term called tough compassion, which is what we do with kids, right? I'm tough on you, but it's because I know you have greater potential, or you can do better than this, right? You're headed down a path. I love you. I'm going to try to help you get off this bad path. So this isn't a free pass. And that is one of the misnomers with compassion work is like, oh, we're just gonna love everybody and it's a free pass and do whatever. And there's tough compassion with ourselves and with other people. So I practice tough compassion like eating pizza, right? Like I really wanna eat this whole pizza. But Ginger, that isn't good for you, right? That's tough. That's not like, Ginger, do whatever you want to. Right? So you have to kind of find your application of tough compassion in your brain. I love you and you're going to be sick if you do this. Right? I love you and you're going to be in prison if you do this. Right? So I'm trying to change your course. That's tough compassion. And we do need to practice that with our kids, for sure. But it's coming from a place of loving and worthiness. And yes, they are going to make mistakes. Here's the thing I've learned in watching people's stories. The only way we learn is through mistakes. You gotta fall.
Absolutely.
There is an author, his name is escaping me right now because I know you're gonna wanna know who it is. I'm gonna have to, do we have, actually send me an email if you wanna know this author. Ginger at Compassion Fix and I'll look it up. But it's an author who writes about teen addiction. And he has this idea of pavement parenting is part of the problem. We dove in to save them from all their mistakes, right? I don't want you to fall on the playground, so I'm gonna dive in and save you. Well, then they never learn I can't climb that high, right? And so I like his term pavement parenting because it reminds me sometimes of let them fall.
When the mistakes
When
are
the
small.
exactly, when the mistakes are small and when they're living at home and you can still bail them out, right?
Right.
But you're right.
You equip them with some tools
Yep.
that way.
Yep. But the
But-
20s.
Yeah, but the default when they're little,
Yeah.
I mean, I literally can feel my brain saying when they were 6 and spilled that milk, I've got to tell them that's wrong and
Exactly.
bad because later on they need to know this other thing is wrong and
I
bad.
know.
It's just
I
such a
know.
default.
It is such a default. And it is how we grew up, right? We're
Exactly.
changing the paradigm too, remember?
Right.
So,
Because I can almost hear my mom
Yes.
over my shoulder saying, you better make sure that
Yeah.
kid doesn't spill that milk again.
yep.
Yeah,
And I had a very perfectionist mother.
me too.
And I became a perfectionist, and so I'm trying with my daughter to, like, my tongue is bloody because like, okay, trying not to put this on you, but it's hard. And that's taken years. She's 15, and so I'm having a lot of that right now. But the the wisdom is they're on their path, they are connected to God, and we gotta let them learn these lessons. And we can watch the train wreck coming, and that is one of the hardest things to do as a parent. I see a train wreck coming, and I've gotta let you experience it. And it is so hard, but when I see the difference in resiliency in kids, the kids that have made mistakes and messed up are the ones that are doing better.
Natural consequences
Yeah.
are pretty good teachers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's your younger siblings, you learn that on the first one,
Exactly.
you're screwed up.
Yes. That's
The
right.
second one, you're like, yeah, that's good,
Yeah.
fail now.
Yes.
Fail
And
now when you're at
remember-
home with me, and
Yes.
I can help you.
And if you're shaming yourself, that's not the point of this talk. So I do want to say, remember, no matter how you raised your kids and what we did, we are souls in earth school, right? We're just learning. We had never parented before. I'm a student of parenting every day. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, that worked. Oh, that didn't work. Right? We are students. Give yourself permission to be a student forever and ever. I've never grandparented before. I've never had a 27-year-old before. I've never had a dying parent before. I've never had a kid go to jail before. I've never had, right? Whatever it is, this is our first time. We're gonna get it wrong. We're students. Elizabeth Gilbert, who I love, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and many other books, she writes student on her hand when she is being really hard on herself. And she'll just, and she's blogged about this, and I wrote I write a Tuesday email if you want a little nudge every Tuesday. It's one of these just to keep on your radar, different practices, but the student one really struck with me. And I will do that when I start to go down the you should have known, you should have done it differently. I didn't know all this stuff when my kids were little, right? So I'm a student. I'm learning every day, and I will try to apply it and do better.
So maybe when your 26-year-old says to you, Mom, really, you did okay? That may be a sign that I'm feeling a little too guilty.
So, and here's the thing with guilt. We're covering a lot of topics today. The research on guilt is really interesting because I hit up against this with a lot of clients. A lot of women have guilt. Guilt meant you intended harm. We didn't intend harm.
It's powerful.
Yes, it's powerful. So guilt isn't, we should feel guilt when we intend harm and we want to fix it. If you didn't intend harm, don't feel guilty. You're doing the best you could. You never intended harm for your children. Never. You just have a different perspective today than you did 20 years ago. We all do. I have a different perspective today than I did yesterday. And as I hear people's stories and continue to go deeper in this work, I'm constantly learning that what I said last week was a mess up. I'm a student, right? I'm a student in Earth School. That's it. Yeah.
So helpful on so many levels.
Mm.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming.
We appreciate it. Can you stick around for a couple minutes if anybody has any questions that you
For
don't